Good evening, everyone. This is Bianca Rodriguez Pagano. Today is Saturday, March 21st. The time is now 6 p.m. Welcome to the 18th show of Phillipian Live, coming to you live from, well, my room. This week, a special show exclusively on COVID-19. As the spread of coronavirus, formerly known as COVID-19, has led to big changes like the U.S. travel ban on non-essential travels and border closures with Mexico and Canada, the recent outbreak has also affected communities within the United States. Namely, it's had a big impact and big changes at Andover as the start of spring term has been delayed. Want to know what students had to say? We'll take a look at how the PA community reacted in response to these school changes. But first, the facts. As many Andover students started their spring breaks hoping for a chance to unwind and relax, relief quickly turned into concern as interim head of school Jim Ventry, class of 79, announced that break had been extended due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. In an email to parents and students sent on March 10th, Ventry announced that classes would be postponed until March 29th and conducted remotely until April 3rd. In addition, he explained that all of Andover's business travel would be suspended until May 1st, and events involving outside guests and off-campus trips, including non-SIBI day and ACT testing, would be canceled. However, Ventry announced in a second email sent on March 16th that students are projected to return to campus on April 30th and resume in-person classes on May 1st. Drafted in response to the recent developments to the COVID-19 pandemic, this decision will delay the arrival of students to campus by nearly a month. In an effort to address the residential status of international students facing travel bans and restrictions, Jennifer Elliott, class of 94, assistant head of school for residential life and dean of students, sent a survey to clarify the individual and residential situations of every student. Despite travel bans, international students have been highly encouraged to travel home. Stay tuned to hear about their experiences later in the show. But first, here's live reporter Alina Choi with the latest facts on COVID-19.
Thank you. According to the Centers for Disease Control, or CDC, the COVID-19 virus is thought to spread primarily between people who are in close contact, which is about 6 feet. The virus has an incubation period of up to 2 weeks, in which human carriers can show no symptoms while spreading the disease to others, such as their friends, families, or teachers. To ensure the safety of the Andover community, interim head of school Jim Ventry, class of 79, announced through a series of emails that the schools will extend spring break by a week and push all of its classes online from March 30th to April 29th. Students are scheduled to return to campus for regular classes on May 1st. According to an email from Kalisha Hollis, International Student Coordinator, classes will be held in an asynchronous, not live setting to ensure that all students who live in different time zones have equal access to learning. While we have yet to learn how classes are to be conducted, whether through popular app Zoom or another platform, Ventry announced that faculty and staff would convene remotely to undergo professional development to prepare for online learning, at which point more details would follow. On a final note, in order to protect yourself and others from contracting COVID-19, the CDC recommends washing hands often, avoiding close contact, and cleaning or disinfecting surfaces. If soap and water are not readily available, use a hand sanitizer that contains at least 60% alcohol, and as a general rule of thumb, avoid touching your face with unwashed hands. Stay inside and stay safe, Andover. Alina Choi reporting.
Thank you, Alina. The administration has been working to ensure that Andover's 862 boarding students have returned home, or will return home soon. Following a school-wide email sent by interim head of school Jim Ventry, class of 79, the administration is currently working to address the residential situation of the 127 international students who are facing travel restrictions. We asked a wide array of students, from local boarders to international students, to send in videos sharing their personal thoughts on the COVID-19 outbreak. Here's live reporter Claire Cahill with the story.
Thanks, Bianca. These efforts to clarify travel plans come as governments around the world impose limits on travel. On March 11th, the United States government banned the entry of foreign nationals coming from China, Iran, and most countries in the European Union, with exceptions for certain cases. Additionally, several countries have closed their borders, and according to CNN, the European Union will halt all non-essential entry. Many airports have also heightened border precautions and are now screening for COVID-19 symptoms in every passenger. Students recount their experience traveling back home.
Okay, so the flights were fine, but when that last plane from Taiwan to Shanghai landed, that's when things started to ramp up a little. So you know how everyone lines up to get out of the plane once the plane docks? When everyone was lining up, these people in hazmat suits boarded the plane, and then on the loudspeaker they told everyone to go back to the seats. And then they started calling like individual people to go up and get out of the plane first. And this took about like 40 minutes because they were like scanning everyone before they got off the plane. So when we got off the plane, all the people who came from the United States were put to one side, and this guy in the hazmat suit came over and then led us all to a random place in the airport. And he took us to a room with a bunch of stalls, each manned with the person in a hazmat suit. And on the plane, we filled out a form about like where we've been, if we're showing any symptoms, and basically we would wait in line, and then each hazmat officer would call someone up, and then they would start questioning you about what you've done for the past 14 days and if you've been exposed to the virus. Yeah, I was questioned for about like 30 minutes, and it was a little awkward because my Chinese is a little rusty. So after all this like quarantining, when I passed immigration and got my bag and ready to leave the airport, right before the exit, there's a bunch of booths, each marked with one district of Shanghai. So I went to the one where I live, and at the table there's like 15 police officers, each in hazmat suits. They take my passport and then they question me again, like where I came from, where's my address here. And then they asked me to call my parents to see if they're ready to pick me up, because you're not allowed to take any public transportation or taxis. But my phone didn't work, so I had one of the police officers call my parents. And then when my parents came here, they called the police officer again, and I was escorted out of the airport to my parents' car. So I'm with my parents in the car, and they're all wearing masks and goggles and stuff, and I think everything's fine because I'm out of the airport. But in the middle of the car ride, both my parents get phone calls, and it turns out it's from the police. And they told us that before we entered our compound, our apartment building, there would be a police and doctor escort outside waiting for us. And sure enough, before the entrance of our compound, when we got there were 4 doctors in hazmat suits and 3 security guards and an ambulance just trailing our car. And they basically told us that we had to send them our temperatures twice a day, and we had to quarantine ourselves in our apartment. And during this whole time, there's just people around us filming us because they think something like serious is going down. And then when we enter the compound and drive to my building, when we get there are people outside the entrance waiting for us, and they told us to stay in the car for a while until the disinfector guy came in. So finally, when we enter in the building and take the elevator up to my apartment, there's this guy with a bottle of bleach just spraying our trail as we walked, and then spraying the elevator to make sure that nothing stays on there. And yeah, when I got home, I just went into my room, and now I have to stay here for 14 days.
Traveling back home was a little scary as the coronavirus had just started picking up. My parents were obviously very concerned. They told me to use sanitizer, wear a mask, and not touch too many surfaces, etc. The Boston airport was quite crowded, which was surprising as I thought people would put travel in the hold. However, the Dubai airport was below half occupancy. My flight from Dubai to Delhi as well was fairly empty. That was surprising as it's usually almost full. At the Delhi airport, I, along with all the other incoming passengers, were tested for fever. It was a bit ironic, as if one person did have the coronavirus, everyone was bound to get it, as we were all stuffed together in a very small room.
So I did travel home on an airplane, and it's kind of weird to think about how a week ago this whole coronavirus situation was very different. I wasn't that concerned about traveling on an airplane. I don't know if I want to do that now. I brought, like wipes and wiped down my seat in any places that I would touch or was sitting, just to make sure that I was extra clean and was washing my hands a lot. And I just really didn't interact with a lot of people. It wasn't an entirely different experience from traveling alone at the airport, but I was taking extra precautions.
I traveled by airplane. I came home before the corona scare was really huge, so it wasn't that bad. No one really wore masks. My flight was pretty relaxed.
Originally, I was supposed to go back to Hong Kong for spring break. However, on Wednesday night of finals week, we were notified that all students traveling from Hong Kong to Boston were going to be quarantined for 14 days. So everybody was in a hustle and bustle to try and move their tickets and had the parents come to Boston so that the kids had a place to stay. Luckily, my parents had a plan all along to have us stay in the Boston, New York area, so we were pretty much all set. However, within 72 hours of me finishing my last final, my parents experienced a lot of distress as they were worried about the steep increase in coronavirus cases, specifically in the Northeast with the Biogen meeting, and it's almost 99 cases and 72 of them being the Biogen related. So my parents were on, I could say, mission to try and get us back into our own home in Hong Kong. They experienced a lot of trouble with that as every single person wanted to go back. A lot of students were trying to go back because it was the week where colleges decided to announce that all students had to leave campus, and spring term was now canceled. So there was a lot of hustle with that. My parents ended up not being able to find a direct flight from Boston to Hong Kong, and we had to travel through Toronto to get back to Hong Kong. Hong Kong has now issued a warning saying that anyone traveling from the U.S. who's going to land past Thursday will need to be quarantined for 14 days. So that resulted in a very, very high demand for flights going back to Hong Kong, and a not so high supply. This created a lot of confusion, changes. I feel so lucky that we have reached safely and we were given the opportunity to get a ticket back home. I know a lot of families, a lot of my friends are trying to find tickets to get back home. So we are just trying to do our best to offer the support that we can offer. We did end up traveling by plane. We took 2 flights, one from Boston to Toronto, which was a domestic flight. It was about 1 to 2 hours. And then obviously Toronto to Hong Kong, which was a good 15 hours. So the domestic flight that we took, almost domestic, I guess, was a very short flight. The types of things that I observed was almost a lack of precaution, partially obviously because it was a very short flight. So, why take out a mask for that? But the difference between the flight from Boston to Toronto and Toronto to Hong Kong was very, very big, with people taking a lot of precaution in the flight from Toronto to Hong Kong, almost everyone wearing a mask, a lot of people wearing gloves, eyeglasses, some people putting plastic bags in their place, plastic bags in the seats, wiping down the seats. Everybody was taking very high precaution.
I came back from Andover March 6th, the day we got out of finals. I was quite surprised to see a lot of people at the airport wearing masks and people being careful, people washing their hands a lot more. On the flight, when people would cough, I see a lot of people looking around, and it was something that was a different experience for me at least.
Although most students living within the United States face fewer barriers traveling home, many are now practicing extensive social distancing to protect themselves from the virus. Students share how COVID-19 has impacted their family and the precautions they're taking to minimize exposure to the virus.
Staying in Westchester, New York is actually pretty interesting because Westchester has been one of the hardest hit areas for corona in the country. There's been a lot of panic, I guess, in the area. I haven't really witnessed any of it because most of it happened before I returned home from break, and also I've been staying at home. My mom, who works in the city, is trying to start working from home.
Personally, I'm currently on self-imposed quarantine. That's been tough because I have not been able to see old friends and other family friends here around in Seattle, and I haven't been able to go to different facilities that have all been closed down due to the coronavirus.
We are pretty much practicing excessive social distancing right now. I'll probably not be leaving the home for the next few days. We've canceled a trip that we had upcoming, and my dad is working from home right now, so we're all in this house, and we'll probably be here for a bit. We're not in quarantine, but we are taking a lot of precautions to make sure that we are being careful if and when we go outside and if we're going into public places. One of my family members is immunosuppressed, so we are taking extra precautions to make sure that we just don't have any trace of the virus or get it. There are cases near us, but not in our immediate vicinity, so we are just very much on watch and have shifted our life plans a little, and so far no big concerns. Things are going pretty well.
My parents are both in Shanghai. They are doing fine. Generally, my family is not very affected. I don't feel like the epidemic has a big impact on my family.
I have a cousin in Reno who actually tested positive for coronavirus, and he was going to come to Florida, but he didn't. because he tested positive. So he's absolutely fine. It's just like a little fever. He's no issues, but he did test positive for it.
My little sister is now home because the public schools here have closed. My older brother is not on any college tours because all colleges have canceled, and my older sister is home from college as well. My dad is also working from home, so all 6 of us will be home together for the next couple of weeks. We aren't formally quarantining, but we're definitely trying to limit exposure with the exceptions of necessary community involvement. Right now, that just means babysitting because all the schools and also childcare facilities in our area are closed, and there are some parents who need to keep working, which is definitely a tough situation to be in. Our extended family is a bit more at risk, so everyone is kind of taking different approaches. One set of grandparents has selected to self-quarantine. My grandfather is in Budapest with Alzheimer's, and my grandmother is here for the time being and is meant to travel back to him, but she can't because of the European travel ban. She wouldn't be able to come back, and she needs to for medical care. So it's definitely a stressful time here, but we are just doing our best to stay safe.
In a series of school-wide emails sent by various administrators throughout the past week, Andover first announced on March 10th a decision to extend spring break by a week and push all of its classes online for another week in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. Although regular classes were set to resume on April 7th, an email sent by Ventry on March 16th pushed the return date to May 1st. In the meantime, students will attend class through a remote system. The student response to these decisions has been generally positive, although many have expressed disappointment in not being able to return to campus on time.
I think Andover has made the right decision in postponing the opening of school by 2 weeks and starting online classes, as it's better to be safe than sorry in these times. I'm glad the school is putting our safety and our health as their priority.
I would say a big yes to Andover. I feel like Andover has made the right choice to extend the spring break for 1 more week and to switch courses online for another week.
When we got the email from Andover, I know at first there was some frustration that why are we gone for 2 weeks? Why is it going to take a whole week before we start remote learning? In general, just a lot of questions, but the severity of the coronavirus is a bit more clear. I think we're very grateful just as a whole that Andover did make the call so soon, because I know the public schools in my area, which again, I'm about 40 minutes outside Andover, I'm a local boarder, was just about a week later. I am very grateful that Andover is giving us the opportunity to stay safe.
I think Andover's handling the situation pretty well. The coronavirus is such a tricky thing because we sort of have to follow precedent of colleges as we sort of fit into that sort of bracket, and most of the colleges are shutting down for the term, so I guess we'll probably follow suit. Although I think with coronavirus, because it doesn't really affect younger people, it's iffy. I personally want to go back. I want to get on the water. I want to see my friends again, obviously after a full spring break, but I understand that the school has to do what they have to do.
According to Ventry, the school does not plan to make up lost class time, noting that faculty will meet during the extended week of break to receive training in remote teaching and learning. Although students agree that remote learning is the safest decision given the current circumstances, some express concern over how classes will be conducted and the limitations that online class may have.
In terms of online classes, I'm not really sure how that would work. I'm sort of interested in learning how Andover wants to deal with it, because if we go on a regular based schedule, like class schedule, then kids in Cali will have to wake up at 5 a.m. Kids in like China will have to stay up till like 3 a.m., which is like not super great for sleep schedule wise. And like there are also a lot of performance-based sort of classes that need students to be there. For example, like I'm taking a theater class that it's not possible to do it online, and there are a lot of art courses like that too. In addition, a lot of history courses will need, especially for History 300 and the 310 paper, will need library resources that we just don't have access to at home. In addition, there may be some Andover students who just won't have proper access to certain materials that would be really beneficial for their education. So there's like a socioeconomic disadvantage at play with online classes too.
One concern I have about online classes, and I know a lot of other students from different time zones also have, is whether or not we have to be in class live. Because if I had to be in class in the same time zone as Andover, I would have to stay up all night, and I just don't know how that's going to work out.
Online class, don't want to do it, but if that's what we have to do. I feel bad because such a huge part of Andover is the Andover experience, having live, one-on-one access with the teachers that we have and the resources that the school offers, and not having access to that, I think, is going to be detrimental to the learning experience that we're used to at Andover.
I was wondering if students on the West Coast can have to wake up much earlier to go to classes at the same time as East Coast students, so it would be 5:30 for us but 8:30 for them. So I have a couple questions, but I do agree that Andover did the right thing with making it a pass-fail term, because the online experience would be different for many students.
This does complicate things for me because I'm now currently contemplating whether I should return to China or not. The time difference between the United States and China means that if we are streaming lessons, I would need to get up at perhaps 9 p.m. or 8:30 p.m. every day and go all the way to 2 a.m. the next morning. If you really want your students' mental health, that's probably not a good idea. I think that the school should review its grading policies and perhaps apply another set of grading policies. And I feel like the students could definitely do something about it. Like, how would fair grading in an online system be like? That's something we really should consider.
As students of the school, we're all very eager to learn, and I don't think having online classes is going to stop us from learning, and the teachers are also very skilled, and I'm sure they'll be able to maneuver their way through the online platform.
I think we don't have a lot of information about them right now, so seeing how the school is going to implement them, it will be interesting to see. Particularly, I know a bunch of my friends are in PE and they all went, well, what are we gonna do? We can't go on the ropes course from home. Also science, which is a lot of that is lab featured. I think it will be interesting to see what happens. I am in a position where taking online classes will be easy for me to set up, that I can do it in my home, and I know that could present a challenge to other students, whether at Andover or other schools, because of their situation. So that was definitely in the back of my mind when I was reading that email about online classes.
Andover has also decided to cancel or postpone campus events involving outside guests, as well as all Andover organized events off campus, including non-Civi Day and ACT testing. Many students are unsure if their club or sports events will be postponed until next year or canceled.
I play tennis, and so I'm very big on tennis, and I really enjoy competing, so it's very sad. But obviously I have no place to say because I know there are a bunch of other seniors and captains who don't have that closure for their team. I will also miss Revisit Day. I was really looking forward to that, to hosting a little 8th grader, and then obviously non-Civi weekend.
What I'll miss most about Andover in the next month, it has to be the people. It's the reason I chose to say yes to Andover, and it's definitely the reason I'm going to miss Andover the most. The wonderful people we have across campus, teachers, faculty, staff, and all the students. It's going to be really tough not seeing them for a month.
It canceled spring preseason for the rowing team, which was really a pain. It's sad because, myself and a bunch of my teammates trained really hard, and we're just not really going to have the opportunity to row on the water with each other for a little while still, which is kind of sad, but it's a reality I had to face.
I was planning on being in stage crew for Les Mis. I still want to. I just haven't received information on that yet, so I know that, 2 weeks. It was planning on being early in the term, so seeing how it's either pushed back or whatever happens with that, I'm not entirely sure, but I am looking forward to that, and I hope that things will be able to proceed as normal.
I think spring term is the most influential term because there are board turnovers, co-pres elections, leadership positions like proctors and prefects. It's like a period, like the long run-on sentence that is the Andover school year. Like, we get to say goodbye to seniors and our classmates, and seniors get to, celebrate their last term at Andover. And if we just end here with no spring term, the school year will feel really unfinished and just feel really weird in general.
Students share a few final thoughts on the crisis.
And the last thing I have to say about the coronavirus in general, and it's also what saddens me the most, is just all the racism and xenophobia regarding Asian people amid this whole situation, and also just how the US had months to prepare for this because they saw this happen in China first, but now 2 months later they're still not prepared, and then it's affecting me, everyone in the US, my family, my friends. So I just think it's just not right.
On the whole, I think it's a really crummy situation. There's nothing we can really do about it. I think that the school doing what they have to do is what it is, and just along for the ride.
Claire Cahill reporting.
Thank you, Claire. That was just a little bit of the video that we have from students. You want to hear more from them? Click on the link below in the third, or go to www.phillipian.edu bit.ly/2UROUZN to view a live map with videos from students from all over the globe. In addition, visit Phillipian.net for our real-time coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic to stay up to date with the latest information from faculty, staff, and administrators. And as always, if you're interested in Phillipian Live or the Phillipian as a whole, come find us in the newsroom or visit our website to join. Anybody can sign up to be a writer for any section of the print paper or be a reporter on Phillipian Live and go live on the air to present your own segment. If you're more interested in video, graphics, or live production, we'd love your help as well. Go to Phillipian.net/join or email at for more information. Please stay safe out there. Have a great break and stay classy, PA.